So let's start introducing myself and my colleagues that they will join me today in this workshop. So my name is Ismail El Sayed. I'm an associate professor at the School of Computing. I'm also the research chair. Today we are planning, me and Simile and Faisal, to facilitate a workshop for you. The title of this workshop is about research reading and mastering technical writing and methodologies. And the target from this is for you, the student that are joining us today, how you can enhance your skills, if you have some skills, or how you can have more exposure to systematic approach in research, technical writing, and methodology. So it is an introductory workshop about what is research methodologies, and if you want to start your research journey, how you can do it in a systematic way based on how to start and how to make technical, how to write, and how to explore the problem that you are, that is part from your research. Do it in, when I say systematic way, I mean that to get the best approach in the shortest time, then you have to do it in systematic way. And there are some standardization also, the technical writing, that we are going to explore it later. And since I am a chair of research, I'm telling for all people who are here today. So later, if you are interested in research and interested in a domain, but maybe you are not aware about who will be a faculty member in the School of Computing, who you can work with, you still can reach me, and I'll put you in contact with the faculty member that will align with your research interest. This is an interactive workshop, which means that we will talk about some theoretical aspects, and maybe later we will have a small exercise, we have to do it. But during my presentation or my colleague's presentation, you can stop and ask any question. You don't have to wait till the end of the presentation to ask any question. As far as you have any question or any clarification, or you just want to open a discussion related to what we are talking about, jump and say, hey, what about this? Can we discuss this more? So I expect from you that you can ask me a question at any time of the presentation. So the workshop outline, we have three main parts in this workshop. The first part that I will cover is about what is research and what are the research methodologies. The second part is about basics of technical writing, which will be covered by Faisal. Here you talk about research papers, about the format, about the report, about the proposal, about how the structure should be based on different standardization we have it in our ecosystem, research ecosystem. And the last part will be about when I have to refer to my work, how it is a reference, how the tools I'm going to use it. And we will have a final discussion to recap all what we will discuss in the workshop, and maybe you will have some small practice by the end of this workshop. Any question before I start? Okay. So let's start with overview about research. So I know that, okay, research for people maybe, okay, that doing something new or exploring something new. Yes, maybe this is part about how we have to define research, but this is not the only element of research. So research, and this what I mentioned, is a systematic process for discovering new knowledge, or solving a problem, or confirming existing. And this is very important. Sometimes it doesn't mean people solve that research that we have always to create something innovative. This is incorrect. We have many theory or many proposals. Sometimes part of the research is to take the existing literature review and make like comparison between them, or like try them and share your results in different scenarios. So dealing with the existing outcome that other people has already published It can be part of your research. And by the way, it is very important because sometimes people who propose something, they propose it in their own scenario, and we will not sure about how applicable it is for different scenarios. We will not sure about how applicable for different scale. So making an assessment for the existing literature review is very important to research, knowing that we have so much proposals nowadays. What about solving problems? And here we will start here we start with about an existing problem that we face in our daily life, and we don't know exactly how to solve it. And some research will be that, okay, I don't have knowledge in this domain. Like, I don't have knowledge in artificial intelligence. I have to make my own research to see how I have to start learning about this. So here we can say that this research to discover or solve a problem or to confirm an existing theory in the literature review should be always in a systematic way. And when I say systematic way, I mean that we have a phases. And this is more generic and applicable in computer science and other domains. So I can say that the first phase is about exploration. The second about explanation. And the third about validation. Okay, we'll talk about each one and I will give examples now in the next. Exploration is to identify what I want, which problem I have, I want to seek a solution for this. What's happening here? If there is a problem, we need to solve it. If we are talking about solving a problem, or there is an existing literature review that we need to see how the applicability and scalability of this literature review. In this case, I'm exploring the problem. I'm exploring the objective of my research here in this level. So it's more about identifying what's needed or what's happening. The second phase, where we start now doing our own research, we put it in explanation because we believe that research, and this is, by the way, when we talk about machine learning and AI, which is the machine learning is the tool now being used in different research dimensions. Maybe we'll have more workshops later to more specialize about this topic. Today, as I said, it is more generic workshop about research methodology and technical writing. So here in the explanation, you would say normally it's always like I have to identify different parameters I have and to make more learning about the different relationships between all the parameters to see if I can find a solution. So this differs from exploration, as we will talk about it, because exploration identifying the problem without having the solution. Explanation is to explore what different parameters and their relationship and how I can use these relationships to solve the problem. And the last part, it will be about validation, testing what I have already explored, testing the explanation I have based on the relationship of different parameters, and confirming either my new proposal or if my objective, my research was confirming the existing theory. So I will get the final confirmation by the end of this. So this is 3 main phases, which is very important to you to be aware about it, that whenever you have to start a new research, you have to follow these 3 phases. And when I was preparing this workshop, I was always thinking about my students that they are not doing research or they have doing research before with me, that they always mix between creating an application or starting a research journey. They expect, hey, when we start writing code here, no, it's not like this. There is a systematic process that you have to follow up. So when we talk about research exploration, which is the discovery phase here. As I said, this phase talk more about identifying the problem that you want to talk about it. What's happening here? You can ask this question. Why is this happening here? Why is this phenomenon occur here? An example, let's take an education example here. Like you have a teacher notice a student are struggling, which is happen most of the time. And if you go to research in high schools, they have this struggling to understand math concept. Here, this is an answer for the question, what's happening here? So we are identifying the problem that we have it here based on observation that the teacher has already noticed. So the teacher now maybe will conduct a research, but first the teacher has to identify what's happening here. Why students, they are not able to understand math? So now, and here start saying, hey, is it related to some teaching approach that I need to change it here or not? Again, at this phase, you are not proposing the solution for yourself. Here, you're just seeing what is the problem and what is the other circumstances related to this problem. So here, the teacher say, what's happening here? Student is struggling with math. Is it because of the research, of the teaching approach or methodology we have it here? Do we have to change it? Now the next step is to make research about explanation. Now with explanation will be, if we have to go about this example, it will be what are different parameters affecting the performance of the student. And now we have to study the relationship between them to get a solution for this problem. So at this phase, exploration or discovery, we have to ask the question, what's happening and what are different circumstances happening also related to the main problem that we are talking about it. The second point here about, or second example about health example. Health example here means that what is happening, like a doctor see that, hey, a person visited a doctor or a patient, and the doctor observes symptoms that doesn't relate to any illness or non-illness. Because if it is related to a non-illness, then the doctor maybe can do like diagnosis and we are done. So here we have a problem. So we are identifying, discovering what's happening here, exploring the problem. The problem here is that symptoms not related to unknown diseases, which is for the doctor or the physician here, is something that abnormal or a problem that we need to go to more research to see what's happening, because it's not within the standard related to a specific illness that we can make a matching or alignment with the symptoms. That's next question the physician can ask in this case. So what are different circumstances that I have to consider as a part from my next phase? So here we start saying, okay, do I have to see the environmental factors? Do I have to see what the potential causes that's happening here? So again, we didn't start the next phase. We are talking about identifying the problem and the circumstances or environment, where we talk about environmental settings here. And you will see this word, especially in computer science, when you make or you identify a problem, you will identify the problem within the scenario, which is what we name it here, the environmental settings that we are talking about it. The last example here within this phase that I also want to do is about an agriculture. Again, you are identifying a problem here. The first question to be asking here about this discovery phase, what's happening here? So the farmer noticed that there's a crop behavior or with different soil and one's condition, a new behavior that was not expecting before or didn't see it before. Again, if it is the same what we have before, there is no need for our research. because we need this, we can follow up the standard here. So the farmer will, the next question is, I have to explore more about the ecosystem. Here in this case, the soil type, the climate, the nutrition I'm using. Just what are the different parameters? The next phase, we will analyze the relationship. So the next phase, like if we take this agriculture, the farmers notice that there is abnormal behavior. This is a problem. What will answer the question, what's happening here? The next is what different parameters, still we are in the discovery, that can be involved. Then it said, okay, the soil type, the weather. So taking the parameters of the ecosystems and identifying the problem, we can go to the next phase, which is where we do the research here. I will not say we do the research because discovering phase, identifying the problem is part from the research. But here where we will go to the main phase based on the different parameters we define. Based on different parameters we define related to the problem, we will study the relationship. And this is what I was talking about when we talk about machine learning approach in research, which is most of the research now using machine learning in networking, in data mining, in data modeling, in framework proposals, in IoT systems, in all domains, they are using machine learning approach. And machine learning approach means statistical learning, which is for the explanation, we use different algorithms. All these algorithms is based on, most of them, studying the relationship between different parameters of the ecosystems. So here in this phase, we have to go to see what is a cause-effect relationships pattern here. Like a scientist say, hey, from the scientist has already in the first phase talked more about the increasing CO2 level that's happening here. But here, in this phase where we are doing, the scientist will go and check the co-occurrence and recurrent co-occurrence with different parameters that they're happening till we reach this level of CO2. Identifying the parameter was happening in the first phase. But here we will study about different relationship between these parameters. Okay, when I have this parameter X was being increased in this rate, the other parameters was at this rate. So in this case, because this co-occur with each other, within these rates for these two parameters, I'm getting this result. Because normally, whatever fact you have, which is the fact here is a problem statement we are talking about, this fact will happen for a cause and a reason. And this cause and the reason happen because there are different incidents was taking care. You said I'm talking about research, and because all of us are computer science here. Yes, it is the same. When you identified any research topic in computer science, you have to see the different parameters for the problem you are talking about. You are building a research project in computer science about cybersecurity. You want to build a new algorithm to make vulnerability detection within this environment. So in case to say that this is a vulnerability, you have to see what different parameters related to the network and the data you have it, and make like that you reach a point, because the problem in that case will be, hey, I saw that we have a problem here that the data expected is not as expected, which means that what we name it here, the data behavior, there is a noisy either data or a misbehavior from the data that be happening within my system. So maybe there would be intruder, or maybe there is a problem with the environment itself. But to build a model that I can use it and say, hey, when this happened, then I have this. In this way, I have to see the whole relationship between different parameters. So the last phase that we will have it in this case about validation and testing. So either we propose that, hey, we have now built a model that say that whenever these parameters happen in this way, we will get this problem statement or we will get this fact. To overcome this, then we need to do this and this and this. So when we talk about testing, if it is a new approach, there will be also a systematic way to do testing. And there will be a criteria like, okay, what is the standard I have to use it here? I have to use like the precision, the accuracy, the mean average precision. There are different assessment and testing criteria. And in the testing, doesn't say, hey, my system accuracy is 75, 80, 90. Maybe somebody else do better than yours. But somebody else said that it is also 90 or 88. Okay. But maybe they are using another data set or another high-scale data or an environment. In this case, you have to say that your proposal, your theory is correct. It is not sufficient enough to say that what I did, it has a good approach or a good outcome. You have to align this by making also a comparison with the other existing approach, using the same settings and the same environment. And here said, hey, this is a comparison with the literature review, and this is give confirmation about your assumption. To sum in this case, that first we have to make, the first is exploration or discovery, identifying the problem and identifying the environment and parameter related to it. The second, studying the relationship between different incidents or different parameters, and to see the co-occurrence between all of them, and to start building something new, because when you have to pull something new, it based what you already have. And the third phase would be the testing phase in this case. Testing within your system based on a standardized criteria and comparing with the other literature review within the same environmental settings that use it in your approach. This is how we conduct research in a very simple way. So let's take an example here where we will do the 3 phases in computer science. Okay, I'm computer science talking about data security algorithm. The research process involved here 3 phases. Exploration, explanation, and validation. This is what we said, which is exploration or discovery phase. So what will be the explanation here? To identify the problem. Here we talk about there is a security vulnerability in the existing system. And there are some cyber attacks that's happening within using these algorithms that we are using now. And for sure, as a part of this, identifying the problem that we are talking about, we should also have already the full description, the different environmental settings. What are the users? What are the ports, that port we are using? What are different platforms we are using here? When will this happen? What was the traffic about different times? Because I have to study all these parameters and explanation. Here, sorry. When I have to go to the second phase about explanation, now I have to investigate these may prevent or migrate security branch. After I have already studied the relationship between different parameters within different, making this relationship, because here I have to make relationship about different parameters that happen at that time. The last one, I have to test this new algorithm with different conditions. And most of the time we use simulation here. Because we use a simulation environment, I change the different tuning environment and say, when it was like this is what I got. When it was like this is what I got. So what is the importance of research in academic and professional settings? Why we need to do this? Maybe it is a trivial question, but I believe that it is, we should see it in a way that when we talk about research, it's not only technology. Research is in academia, there is research. develop new theories for and achievement there is in academia part of the research. Business and industry make research, like creating a new product. I am business owner, I have to check, hey, even though I have a restaurant, maybe I have to make adding something new to my menu. How to do those? Hey, the problem that I'm having now is that I'm getting less sales. Maybe people got accustomed to my menu. Okay, so I need to have a new product or a new menu item here. This is discovery phase. And it seems that based on the sales I have people will, most of the time I have sales in this time from this category of food. Okay, and then the next step is to make connection between time, the category of food, and what's happening with all those. And then, okay, no, it seems that I have to have a product within this category and I have to give like some sales discount within this. So I investigate and study different relationships in the second phase and the third phase. I will start a trial menu for 2 to 3 weeks and I will see the feedback of the people and I will collect feedback, because the assessment will be systematic way, it will be based on a standard. If we are talking about computer science, will be precision, accuracy. There is different standard. Maybe later we'll talk more about them. But there is always will be standard. I'm talking about having something new to my customer. There should be like part of this survey feedback that I have to collect it and study 2 to 3 weeks. Then I take a decision. So when we talk about research, it can be in any domain. And policymakers, this is people with the top management who will love to do this, that they will create a new policies, getting feedback, and they have to go with the 3 phases to do this. And I think so, like COVID-19, that all of this in pandemic, that we see that what happened during this for COVID pandemic, that yes, if we don't have a systematic research, we're not able to get the vaccine in a very short way and save millions of lives. So I want to ask you a question for you people who are here now. Why do you think research is important in your field of study? In your field, whatever your field of study. I think most of you may be information computer science, but why we have to consider research as a part of our study? Why? Whatever, you have to join there, go to slido.com or just make here, you can scan the Q code or you go this and put the number and join there and start sending me a reply for your question. So please just join this from your computer, from your phone, go slido.com, and whatever will be in your mind, just throw it here. Hey, let's see. Improving and enhancing existing knowledge, understanding, reading particular subject. I will wait that all people will do it. Yeah. So what do you think is research important? In computer science, research is imperative for development and application of new technology. Yes, I totally agree with this. Here talk about the development of a new technology. We are not talking about new platform, new technology. Improving, enhancing the existing knowledge, understanding regarding particular subject matters. I also agree, because in this case, as I said, when we talk about research, it's not always we have to propose an innovative product. And most of the time we have to have an innovative product, especially when we have a problem that we have already observed or we are facing. But the existing one, we need, with a huge, plenty of proposals we have, evaluating them, it's part from our research that we should be considered to test new theories and term particular results which may not have been defined before. Exactly. The state of art of the higher quality research. Yes, understanding the state of the art is part from the first phase, which is, we name it discovery, exploring. To drive innovation, especially with AI, and there is opportunity to implement the fresh ideas. And as I said, AI, which is using a machine learning tool, and this machine learning, something that talk about this, maybe some of you are aware about, some of you are not aware about it. When we write an algorithm, I didn't mention this in my here, but This is why the way you interact with me, it generates some ideas in my mind. I can share it more with you. When you write a program now, like a program, whatever, using Java, Python, C++, you have already the rules or business requirement. Okay, make a program to make a point of sale where you will get list of product and should be connected with the inventory. So you write your program if else statement where, because you have the whole rules using higher level language that people spoke it, and you just to translate this whole to the coding syntax related to the compiler and the programming environment you have. But when we're talking about machine learning and AI, and even though the machine learning itself, it follows these phases. Machine learning, you don't have the rules. You have set of data. And you use a statistical learning, because machine learning is based on statistical learning. You use a statistical learning. And apart from this statistical learning, you get the whole data and then you generate the rules. What we name it the model. A model in this case is a set of rules. So in the classical programming, you have the rules and you write an algorithm. In the machine learning that AI uses, you start with the data and the parameter and the environment. And you have the problem. To identify the problem, and you have the data and the environment. So it is the first phase, discovery. Problem plus the environment parameters. Here, and this is why all people now, they are using machine learning as a part from their research. You will use a machine that I don't have set of rules. I will not write an algorithm here. I will use an existing algorithms. So these algorithms later will see the data that we have, the environment, and what is the problem. And the statistical learning, mainly using deep learning or whatever, most of the time it will studying the relationship between different parameters. And then the outcome will be a set of rules in this case. And to do this in machine learning for the testing, we have a validation process by saying that you should not use the same data that you use it at the beginning for the validation. So machine learning approach research use the same three phases I'm talking about it. Having the data with the parameter or the environment with the problem. I then make a statistical learning to see the relationship between parameters, validation, the result. And when I said machine learning, use on the word machine learning, it came from the word human being learning. Our mind works in this way. Our mind, when it has to make its own research, and our mind is always learning without having a control in this, that always your mind sees something new. You said, hey, there's something new happening. Maybe you see any observation, anything's happened during you are walking in a forest and you see there is a new plant here. This is a new plant. Maybe because this forest happened within this region, this environment. Your mind starts talking about and see exploring some relationship here. So machine learning approach here, it is based on this research approach that we are talking about, that exploring, identifying, investigating, studying this. But here they use statistical learning, identifying relationship between different parameters of the environment, and make a validation by the end of this. So thank you so much for being and adding your input here. So just an example of about how the impactful research here. In technology, because we are people from technology, we see that the development of internet will never happen if we don't have a research. And you see, if we don't have internet, where we cannot have all this progress in technology that we have. Machine learning and artificial intelligence, especially machine learning, that we did many research in the machine learning approach itself. In health, how much we have in the cancer treatment, mental health study, drug discovery. And by the way, in health science, the approach they use it is pure related to this, because they don't know exactly the body, how it works. They know, but not everything in the body. So they know there is a problem, like there is a symptoms not related to an illness, or there is they want to treat medication. So the way they do it, they will they identify the problem, the different parameters, but the way they did their approach sometimes not the same that we do it our approach, that we always have a statistical learning. They will use more observation, which means that they will try different scenarios and collect observation. In climate change here, renewable energy, sustainable and agriculture, which is I'm more interested recently in sustainability and agriculture. And we can see how much impact about research and which is also it needs a lot of research about agriculture practice and the impact on the climate and sustainability. So I have another question for you to open another. Give me an example of how to research that inspired you. You read about it, you hear about it, somebody shared with you that will all inspired you. Yeah, again, maybe you have to join another slide now with this number. I'm not sure if it is the same number. And I will be happy if you can give me your insight here about just examples that inspired you. Yeah. Maybe we can talk about this about DeepSeek and about what's happening here. Yeah, thank you so much for this. I will start with like a research for the DeepSeek. By the way, DeepSeek is an example about the research using the existing theory. Because what happened that when OpenAI started, before something changed because of politics. So what happened that it was an open platform, which means that you can download a model. We said when we talk about machine learning, we have to create a model. What is a model? Set of rules. This keep it in your mind. Classical programming means that you have a set of rules and you write algorithm based on this. Machine learning, which is AI, is based on machine learning, means that you created a model from an existing set of data, which is what is a model in this case? Set of rules. And then you use this model for different environment and similar to the environment, different data similar to the environment. But you have to create the model and then you start sending a new data to the model and expect a result. And the model should generate an answer or an expectation or a prediction based on the learning process that happened before. And now we have what we name it reinforcement learning, which means that you build a model which is smart enough to answer, but still the model will be learning apart from the interactivity that's happening here in this case. So the DeepSeek, which is they use the existing one, they start with this. And maybe the problem was for them at that time that about maybe the cost that's happening here for this model, about whatever. They said, okay, we can use this model, we can have a simpler deployment, and we are able to get the result. So, and when you talk about 6 millions here, why it is 6 millions? And I trust them that it was 6 millions because they are not generating model from the beginning. They use an existing open source models to generate these model. You did a very sophisticated statistical learning before. They use a model, they make some enhancement in that model, and then they start from here. Because a machine learning statistical approach, the complexity here depends in the data that you are dealing with. It more high-scale data, they need huger infrastructure. But when you build the model, executing the model itself, which means to interact the model and start giving you a result, doesn't need the same computational power like learning or building the model. Building the model, if you are going to deal with a huge data set, like OpenAI, they start working with the Wikipedia, one of the main sources of the data they said about. You can imagine Wikipedia, how huge it is. So the building process here need somehow more advanced infrastructure based on what they have here in this case, or what the data set they are dealing with. And in this way, I believe that DeepSeek, they didn't start from scratch. They use an existing open source model to start. So They don't need a very sophisticated infrastructure in this way. And because they have a well-done model, so they were able to reconsider the model itself to make the accusable model need less computational power in this way. Yes, and there are snake genome, yes. And again, when we said using AI based on here, the AI is a bigger umbrella, but the tool for the research will be the machine learning. Machine learning is this case. Another universe? Do you believe that we will research that talk about another universe? Maybe we can make a simulation about the other universe, how it is. Yes, why not? Studies which validate the use of senior-centered video games for simulating social interaction. Yes. And this is one of the research that is about, like I want to talk about when I talk about cybersecurity. I will not build a real system having the whole infrastructure and I will ask people come and attack me. I can build a simulation in this case. And when we talk about simulation, it can be just like a simulation for a research purpose. And sometimes we can build also simulation for teaching purpose. Like there are building using augmented reality or this, where people will be in another environment and see how they can learn to interact. So yes, this is also building video games now. They talk about a more like VR video games where you have a more simulation that would be living in other environment, not only being watching a game and then interact with the game. So yes, all these research, they will never happen if we don't have this people who start the process and we continue the accumulative process. And again, something that I want to share with you, I'm simplifying what is research for you when I was talking about 3 phases. I will tell you to be more motivated here. Don't see research always as something related to NASA or something related to nanotechnology. It's not like this only. Research can be in any domain. Research is always whenever there's a problem that we need to solve it, or just exploring the existing, how applicable and scalable they are. And you as a student, if you choose one of either problem statement or the existing one, with the whole tools that my other colleague will help you in this in the next part, you will understand more how we can go with these 3 phases using these tools in this case. So the second part, which is I will stop after the second part, I will give Faisal to continue, is about, I hope that I'm very talkative person. I'm not talking so much, I'm not taking so much time. Yeah, I'm still having 20 minutes. So, or maybe less. I have time. Faisal, bear with me, sorry.
Well, good morning and thank you for such interactive session. So can you allow me to share my screen?
No, I still have a part I have to do with Faisal.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. So about research methodology here, and when we talk about research, there are different research types. So about qualitative and quantitative and a mixed, and this is somehow good to understand here what I mean by here qualitative and quantitative. Because when we talk about qualitative, here we have to understand, we have to focus more on the human behavior, the experience. The method will be like interviewing, collecting observation, case studies. And sometimes, most of the time, in health science, they will go more qualitative. And sometimes it will be mixed, as I will say. Qualitative means that it's based on interactivity with a stakeholder, interactivity with a different problem parameters, with a different argument I have it, and concern making surveys, case studies. Qualitative, quantitative focus on the numerical data. So as I said, an example for qualitative studying the effect of social media on mental health. Quantitative here, it's more about there is existing data And an outcome, I have to go more statistical analysis. So like measuring the effectiveness of a new fertilizer in crop yields. So this is, we see it as more qualitative. This is, we see it more quantitative. But to be honest, most of the time we will have a mixed research here, where we need to combine the qualitative with the quantitative, which means that I have to go with the case studies, with the interviews, but I have to collect data. I have to have an historical data before, and then I have to do it in this case in both approach in this way. So how to choose the right methodology? I have to go if it is qualitative, quantitative, or I have to go with a mixed one. I have to consider different factors about research question. The research question, which is more about the identification, I talk about it. Is it contain quantitative? If there is a measurable data, or it is more about just talking about experience and knowledge that people are sharing here, which is more quantitative. The scope of the study here is, in this case, also, it depends. And the resources we have it. I will give you an example. And before I will go to the example, because somehow I don't want to take more time. The practical step to go with is it qualitative or quantitative or mixed is first I have to define the objective and the scope. And this is very important. And in identifying the objective, it's part from the phase one that I was talking about it, identifying or discovery phases. So here I have to clarify the research object. I have to ask the research questions here in this case. And to see the boundaries I have it. And then based on the research objectives and the boundaries, and especially the research objective based on the research, I can align with the objective with the methodology I should go with it. Let's take an example, and I will stop after this example. So defining objective and scope for a research project. And then we have to align this. And I will give you a concrete example here about the impact. Let's take the impact of learning in student performance. This is the research topic. The impact of online learning in student. And by the way, this is one, I did a research paper in the last year about it, about blended learning. And we were going back to different data we have it, and we continue with this, especially at School of Computing, we have what we name it hybrid, online classes, and in person. So what about student performance apart from this online learning process, comparing to other mode of delivery? So here I have first to talk about the objective. What is the objective here? To analyze and compare the academic performance of online versus in-person environment. I talk about the objective. So identifying, first phase, exploring, discovery, sorry, not exploring, discovering the problem. And another way, when I talk about here objective, I'm identifying the problem that I'm talking about it. And there can be sub-objective here, or more description for the objective. So first step is defining the research object. Second step is to see boundaries. And here we talk more about the different environmental settings we have it. And what is the scope that we are talking about? Is student enrolled college level courses during the past 2 academic years, or exclude student making course outside this accredited institution, because we are making research not on one institution, different institution. So here I define the objective is to compare the different performance between online and in person. And here I'm defining the scope. After this, I have to align this with the methodology. I have to go qualitative, quantitative, which methodology I have to use it. Here, I have to go to the research question. What is the research question? How does online impact performance compared to in-person learning? So this question talk about performance. And in this case, because we're talking about performance and difference, here talk about performance, we talk about numbers. And now here it is more quantitative, because whenever there is a numerical number, it is quantitative. I'm talking about experience and challenges. Challenges here, it is not numbers. It's not numbers. So here I'm talking about qualitative dimensions to be considered. So I'm talking about the performance, which is more numbers. I'm talking about experience and challenges where it is more qualitative. Because from the research question, I was able to see the two qualitative and quantitative, and I said my methodology will be mixed one. And the mixed one in this case, then I have to use qualitative and quantitative research methodology in this case. Now, if you have to go to the second phase, either using qualitative or quantitative to make this investigation, we should talk more about the technical writing, how to search for papers, how to deal with the papers, to existing literature review, and how I have to write my outcome later, which is I will give it for you, Faisal, now. And thank you so much and I will see you by the end when we have to recap. So Faisal, you now.
Well, thank you, Ismail, for such a great presentation. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I will be discussing how to master technical paper writing. So this presentation will be more oriented towards my own research journey when I was a PhD or master students. So what challenges I had to find a specific topic, research problem, and how I address those challenges. So first of all, before going into details, what is a technical writing? So this is basically a brief document or a manuscript which explains the steps, progress, and conclusions of technical or scientific investigation. So for example, if you are addressing any problem and you are developing an artificial intelligence based algorithm for cybersecurity, so what specific steps or methodology or results you have done, and you have to take that into a document. So this is known as technical writing. Or second, it summarizes a given project or a research study. So if you have done like a simulation, or if you have done something novel, so it summarizes your whole work into a specific document. So we have different types of technical documents. First of all, technical reports, which we also call it as a dissertation or thesis, or usually when you do a capstone project, so you have to write a technical report. Second is conference paper, which is kind of a short version of a journal paper, but within conference paper, like you have to identify a problem within a certain domain, you have to propose a methodology, and then you have to discuss your novelty by using some simulation results. So usually conference papers, they have a limitation of 5 pages, and every conference paper, it has its own format. Then we have user manuals or guides. For example, for your labs, you can have your own lab manuals. For specific industries, we can have its own manual. We can also have proposals and specifications. It's a high level. When you write something for a funding, so for that, you write proposal and specifications. And finally, you have SOPs. Okay, so if you join any company or any organization, so they have their own SOPs, and you have to follow that on SOPs. But in this presentation, I will be looking and discussing more how to write a conference paper, what different challenges you can have, and how to address those challenges. So first of all, before going into details, this is the structure of a technical paper. So if you want to write a technical paper and want to submit to any conference, so you have to follow this specific format. Okay. So first of all, title. The title of your conference paper, it should be very concise, clear, and according and to the paper's content. For example, if you are writing a paper into AI for cybersecurity, so your title should be very according to your proposed methodology or the proposed algorithm. Second is abstract, which is a brief or executive summary of paper's objectives, their methods, results, and conclusions. We will be looking these all in details, okay? But this is a brief introduction. Third is keywords. Whenever you're writing a paper, so you have to mention your keywords. For example, if you are solving a problem by using deep learning, so your paper should have keywords such as deep learning, machine learning, cybersecurity. Fourth is introduction. Basically, in the introduction, first of all, you have to introduce your area. For example, if you are working on Internet of Things, so first of all, you have to start with Internet of Things and what are their advantages. Then problem, you have to write some literature review, and from literature review, you have to identify a problem, and then what's your own contribution. Okay, so this is basically introduction. 5, which is literature review, which is very, very important. Before starting any research, first of all, you have to do literature review. And by literature review, what do we mean? You have to research papers from like journals or conference papers. So you have to review what other researchers they have done, and based on their own research, you have to identify a research gap, and then you have to propose your own framework or algorithm. After that, methodology. Obviously, if you are proposing any algorithm, so you have to specify a methodology. So you have to write your own methodology, what different steps you have taken, and how your methodology is novel compared to others' work. Section 7, obviously, when you have your own methodology, you have to discuss this by using simulation results. And you always have to compare your own results with a benchmark. By benchmark paper, I mean that previous researchers, they have proposed an algorithm, and you have to compare your own simulation results with a benchmark. So if your results, they are improving, so your approach is better compared to theirs. Then you have to do a discussion based on the results, that why your simulation results, they are better compared to benchmark or previous research papers. Finally, conclusion, which is you have to summarize your findings, limitations, and you also have to suggest the future work. And last, you have to include references, because whenever you are writing a paper, you have to review the literature, and based on that literature or references, you have to propose your own methodology or your own algorithm. So let us start. So first of all, very important, when I was a student, I had many challenges. Area selection, like you don't know which area I have to select, because you have multiple different domains. You have AI, you have NLP, you have image processing, you have cybersecurity. So how to select a research area? So first of all, key objective is that you have to review your faculty profiles. Obviously, you have some diverse faculty members in your department, and you have to see their research profiles. Some professors, they will be working in AI. Some of them, they will be working in cybersecurity. Some of them, they will be working in image processing. So first of all, before starting, you have to review their research profiles, in which area they are working. Second, which is very important, nowadays you can see some advertisements for MS positions, for PhD positions, and within those advertisements you can see what different projects they are working. So nowadays you can see everyone is working on AI, large language models, generative AI. So you can also like take help from those advertisements to summarize or concise your research domain. So here from example, I can clearly see that I have two different areas. First one is AI and second is data communication. So obviously you will go with AI. Why? You always have to follow market trends as well as emerging technologies. Why? Because nowadays every company or every university, they are working within these areas, and if you have expertise within these areas, you can easily grab your job even into an industry or academia. So you have to select your research topic very wisely, considering the market trends. Okay. After that, you also can find your papers on online platforms. You have Google search. Within Google search, you can find research papers. You have IEEE, you have ACM, you have different online platforms where you can review the research papers and identify a research area or domain for yourself. So how to identify a area? Okay, so first of all, you have to follow a generic to specific approach. What do I mean? For example, now you have identified that I want to work in AI for cybersecurity. Still, this area is very generic because within AI, you have different algorithms. You have supervised learning algorithms, you have unsupervised learning, you have semi-supervised learning, you have generative AI, you have LLMs. So first of all, you have to start from generic approach. And for that generic approach, you always have to start with survey papers. Okay, so within survey paper, you have always a broader kind of knowledge which will discuss each and everything about AI and what different researchers they have developed for cyber security. And within these survey papers, the researchers, they always leave some open research directions. Okay, so within survey paper, you can find a section which is open research directions, and these are some challenging problems, and you can easily review or take those challenging problems as your research gap and work on those specific areas. Okay, so now I can see a problem that initially I was very generic. I was looking in AI in cybersecurity, but when I was reviewing this paper in detail, I got into an area which is generative AI for threat detection. So nowadays, everyone is working in generative AI or large language models for threat detections in IoT. Okay, so clearly we can see that how we moved from a generic to a specific approach. And for that, you always have to find survey papers on online platforms. Okay, so survey papers, they always help you in understanding broad trends, because initially you don't know what is AI, what is cybersecurity. So by reviewing survey paper, you will have a very broader information about the area, and within those paper you can find specific subtopics. So it's very easy to identify a subtopic by using existing literature review. So if you have any question, please you can ask me. Okay, so this is an example where this is a paper, survey paper. So within Google Scholar, you can search a survey on deep learning for cybersecurity, progress, challenges, and opportunities. Okay. So now within this survey paper, you can easily see this paper also discusses what is the current progress or what researchers currently they are doing. Okay. Then challenges. Okay, what challenges existing researchers they have. Okay, so this can be your one of key area which you can select for your research. And finally, opportunities. Researchers already they have identified some potential research gaps. Okay, so you have to be smart while selecting a challenge as well as a research area. Is it clear? Okay, so are you with me?
But, yeah, I think so. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay. I was really worried. Okay, so now step 3, which is very important, how to identify a research gap or how to define your contribution. Okay, and usually within research papers, when you review research papers, you can find that most of the papers they have focused on this specific area, but certain or very few they have worked on this. So you can take this as your research contribution. Okay, but it should be like it should be a new knowledge, it should have a novelty compared to previous research or or like frameworks, and your framework it should have improved performance compared to previous papers. So now clearly we can see a paper. Okay, now this is a paper which works on developing a federated learning framework for threat detection. Okay, so we can see here that in this specific section the researcher is discussing what previous papers they have done. Okay, so we can see in 2017 researchers they introduced federated learning that preserves user privacy and data confidentiality. Similarly, in another paper they also proposed a central framework for now. However, the authors in this paper note that most distribution among the participants and inappropriate data sets. Okay, so we can clearly see that in this paper the researcher he has clearly identified a research gap considering previous studies. Okay, so this is how you have to identify your research gap. First of all, you have to discuss what other researchers they have done, and then clearly you have to say that however these paper they did not assumed or they did not consider the distribution among participants and inappropriate data sets. Okay, so this is how you have to identify your research gap from previous papers or from previous published frameworks. And after that you have to discuss your contribution. Okay, so to address these issues, to address the issues in previous paper, what your contribution is. Okay, so basically this is your contribution. The author presents a federated learning based scheme for IoT systems considering the impact of non-independent and identically distributed data sets. Okay, so this is a way how to identify a research gap based on previous papers and what your contribution is. Okay, Definitely, when you have your own contribution, you have to develop your own proposed methodology. Okay. Now, what a proposed methodology or your solution is, you have to develop a framework. By framework, I mean that if you are developing a deep learning based solution, so you have to formulate your problem or propose your methodology according to deep learning. Okay. And your framework, it must be more convincing. Definitely you have to use block diagrams, flow charts, and tables to improve clarity. And you also have to justify why your proposed methodology is better than existing ones. Okay. We have an example of proposed framework. So basically I am taking the same paper. Okay. Throughout my presentation, I am taking the same paper. Okay. So we can see here, this is the methodology of paper. Okay. And in methodology, clearly the author discussed that what data set he has taken, what algorithm he has taken, and what different parameters he has taken in his own algorithm. And you can also see that the author, he has also proposed a framework or architecture. Okay. So this architecture clearly shows that what different steps he has taken to improve his framework compared to other researchers. So basically this is proposed framework or solution. So once you have developed your framework or your solution, then you have to do simulations. Okay. You have to do simulations, and for simulations you can take or you can use different softwares. If you are using AI based models, so definitely you can use PyTorch or Keras libraries. So again, it depends what specific algorithm you are using. If you are addressing a wireless communication problem, then you have to use Omnet, NS2, as well as MATLAB. But again, it depends how this specific simulation or your framework can be simulated. Once you have your results, then you have a section which is known as discussion and analysis, because within this section you have to highlight why you have improved results compared to benchmark and why you have achieved those results. So here you have to logically or technically explain that your algorithm, for example, if you are using federated learning, so you can say that as federated learning, it has a distributed kind of learning. So it has achieved higher accuracy with less security risk. So within this section, you have to discuss why you have achieved and improved performance by using graphs. You can also use tables. Definitely, if you are saying that my approach is better, so you have to compare your approach with a benchmark. Okay. And you can find your benchmark within Google Scholar. So now we can see a discussion and analysis section of a paper. We have two different graphs, and within this we can see the green and this red graph. This is basically the algorithm of this paper. Okay. And the other, which are orange and blue, these are benchmarks. So you can clearly see here that by using a graph, the author has demonstrated that his work or his proposed algorithm has achieved higher F1 score compared to compared to the benchmark. Okay, and you have to discuss why you have achieved that. Okay, so clearly here it says that the other approaches, they were based on centralized learning, that's why they had less accuracy, and this approach was based on distributed framework and it achieved higher accuracy. Okay, so this section is very, very important. You have to highlight your achievement or your novelty by graphs. Okay, and you have to compare your work with existing frameworks. Introduction, this is very, very important. Okay, so once you write your paper and you submit your paper to any conference or any journal, first of all, the reviewer, he will see your title, your abstract, and introduction. So if your these sections, they are professionally written, there will be very higher chances that your paper will get positive reviews. But if this section is not well written, honestly, if you are proposing something very unique, very novel, your paper will not get accepted. Okay, so these three sections, they are very, very important. Okay, and how to write that? First of all, you have to briefly discuss your background and context. Okay, for example, if you are working on a cyber security area, so straight away you have to write about cyber security. Okay, that cyber security has a lot of challenges, and after that you have to discuss some literature from paper that researchers, they have developed this protocol, this protocol, this protocol, and after that straight away what problem they had. So as we were looking at the previous paper, so researchers, they were presenting machine learning algorithms, and machine learning algorithms, they have centralized nature. By centralized nature, what do we mean? That for example, if we have three users, so they always send their parameters to a central server for training. Okay, now this has good performance, but this kind of approach is always exposed to security threats. Okay, so you have to address this accordingly. After that, you have to highlight the research gap. Okay, which is that previous studies, they haven't looked into the centralized aspect of machine learning algorithms. And then clearly you have to write your objectives or your contribution. Okay, what do we mean? That we proposed a federated learning based algorithm to address the centralized challenges in machine learning algorithm. Finally, you also have to write that we conducted the simulation, and from simulation we have verified that our proposed algorithm achieved a% improvement compared to benchmark algorithm. Okay, so this introduction section, it's very technical and you have to write it very professionally. So basically this is an example of same paper. So we can clearly see that in the first paragraph, straight away researcher discusses IoT devices as well as industrial application. So we can see that this author is working on IoT area. Okay. After that, we can see here that in this section, the researcher discusses the existing work, what existing researchers they have worked. Okay, so once he discusses the existing work, then he identifies a problem. We can see that, however, such an approach requires resources that are typically not available in the resource constrained environment. Okay, so clearly from the existing literature, here we are identifying the problem, what problem existing papers have. And finally, contribution, what specific protocol or what specific algorithm we are proposing and how it has shown performance improvement. Okay, so we can see that we evaluate the impact of this algorithm by using a simulation software, and we have seen that our approach has achieved an performance improvement of A% compared to existing frameworks. Okay, so basically this is a brief introduction or approach that you can follow to write your own paper. Abstract. Honestly, when I receive some papers to review, I initially go through title and then I review abstract. If your abstract is not professional, even we don't go through introduction section. Okay, so abstract is very important. And how you have to write the abstraction? First of all, you have to define the motivation. Okay, you have to write that cybersecurity nowadays, as the communication systems, they are getting more modernized, so we can see they are more exposed to threats. Okay, so straight away in the first line you have to attract the reviewer, what specific problem you are addressing and what issues it has. Then you have to write a brief method. Okay, so we proposed a federated learning approach to address the non-heterogeneous nature of wireless networks. Okay, so in method you have to briefly write what specific algorithm or approach you have used. Okay, then key results, what is your achievement? Straight away you cannot use anything without simulation results. Okay, so straight away we simulated our algorithm by using PyTorch framework, and we have achieved 10% or A% performance improvement in accuracy compared to benchmark works. Okay, so you have to avoid too much technical details. Okay, in abstract section it should be to the point. Okay, and it should follow this specific structure. Okay, let us see another example. Okay, so straight away it says that the vast or the increase in IoT devices, they have, like, they are more exposed to threats. Okay, and we can see that existing algorithms, they have a centralized approach of trading. However, this approach may violate data privacy. Okay, so we can see that within fourth line we have identified a gap in existing work. And what you have done, federated learning, you have to write that what is your method. Okay, so straight away federated learning has shown some significant interest to solve the centralized area. Okay, and then we can see that here it discussed that we conducted a simulation and we have achieved a 20% of performance improvement compared to benchmark. Okay, so you have to follow this specific format to write your abstract, okay, which is very, very important. Okay, writing the abstract, it's very important. Then the last section, which is conclusion and future work. So in conclusion, you have to write that what you proposed or what specific study or area you were choosing, what were your experimental results, and how you achieved superior performance compared to existing work. And you can also propose future work. Okay, it's not compulsory, but it's good to propose some future work, because when you will be developing your own algorithm and when you will be doing simulations, so you will see that there will be some challenges. Okay, and that challenges you can mention them as your future work. Okay, you can never introduce new information in the conclusion. Okay, so whatever you have achieved in your paper, you have to write that. Finally, the title of the paper, which is again very important. Okay, never use any jargon or overly broad terms. So you can see the title, Federated Deep Learning for Intrusion Detection in IoT Networks. So this paper was proposing a federated deep learning technique for detecting intrusion in IoT networks. So we can clearly see that this title is very well and descriptive written. I can also write that AI for cybersecurity, but this title is very broad. Okay, so you have to always choose or write your title according to the theme of your paper. Okay, finally, references. So if you are writing anything, you should write it from references. Okay, by references, what do we mean? That in Google Scholar or online platform, you will be reviewing some papers, and based on those references, you have to identify your gap. Okay, and we have different references for every conference. We have different referencing styles, and I think in the next session there will be some touch of how to use referencing. Finally, thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask me or you can email me by this. And Ismail, thank you for providing me the opportunity to share my research journey to students. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hi everybody, I'm Simili Joseph. I work here as an LTA at School of Computing, and I will be talking about citation and referencing essentials, as well as some of the tools which we can use for citation purposes. I have shared the screen. I hope it's visible to everyone. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land where we are fortunate to live. The University of Fraser Valley is situated on the unceded traditional territory of the Stolo peoples. The Stolo have an intrinsic relationship with what they refer to as our sacred land. Therefore, we express our gratitude and respect for the honor of living and working in this territory. So these are the learning objectives. Mainly my presentation is divided into two halves. First, I will talk about citation, the importance of citation and references, as well as the common citation styles. For example, APA, IEEE, MLA, those things will be discussed. In the second part, we will discuss about some of the citation tools, mainly Mentally and End-to-Not, which we can use for managing the citations. And I will talk about some of the basic database search strategies which we can apply for effective literature reviews as well. What is citation? Citation are a way of giving credit when certain material in your work came from another sources. So basically, we need to include that citation within the body of our text in the manuscript. If you are selecting any type of words, ideas, figures, images from another places. Three ways are there for incorporating others' work into your own writing, because sometimes we need to do like extensive literature survey. So it's very important to cite those materials in our own work. Sometimes it can be quotations, direct quotation. So when you use quotation, it must be very identical to the original one. We can't rewrite that one in our own words. Another category is paraphrasing, that involves putting a passage from source material into your own words. Then summarizing is the last option, which involves putting the main ideas into your own words, including only the main points. So those are the situations in which we need to include citation in our manuscript if we are referring to other people's work. Some of the importance of proper citations are listed here. Citation helps you to be a responsible scholar by giving credit to other researchers and acknowledging their ideas. It builds your credibility as a scientist or as a scholar. It allows your reader to track down the sources that you used, because your readers also might be having similar research interest. So it is useful for them if you cite, if you include those references in your book so that they can track down to those resources. Citation enables better verification of your work. Attribution serves as a fact-checking tool to avoid plagiarism by quoting words and ideas used by other authors. That is another importance of proper citation. Then definitely good citation practices that will make you a better writer. And a good bibliography shows that you have scientific knowledge, you have done thorough research. So that is also an indication about how much research you have done in that particular area, how much scientific knowledge or background you have in that particular area. So it's important to cite the references in any research work. Next, we will see some of the common citation styles. The most common one is APA style, American Psychological Association. So APA mainly covers the format and styles for the organization of content in the manuscript, then the writing styles, then in-text citation and citing references, and also it talks about how to prepare a manuscript for publication in certain disciplines. Mainly APA styles are applied in areas like education, those who do research in education field, social sciences, and computer science as well. So I'll be talking more about APA since in computer science discipline, we can follow APA style. So mainly I will be covering in-text citation as well as referencing, how to reference. So for in-text citation, according to APA, we follow author date method. For example, within the text, if you are, referring some ideas from a particular author, you need to include the last name of the author as well as the date of publication, as in this image. So in this presentation, whichever I have given in green colors, those are actually examples. Then, if you are specifying to a particular page, it's important to include that page number as well, like John's 1998 P.199. And if it is from multiple pages, you can give that range as well. So then suppose it's a short quotation. For example, according to John's 1998, then whatever the quotation that you are taking from that particular reference, you need to include that in double quotes. So students often had difficulty using APA style, especially when it was their first time. So that is actually a quotation taken from this particular writer's work. And the page number is also given. Then again, for the summary or when you paraphrase, you can also follow author and year of publication. Here there is an example. According to John's 1998 APA style is difficult citation format for first-time learners. So that's the another way. I mean, in the last sentence, I have given another example. Like within the bracket, you can specify the author's name, the year, as well as the page number. Then for long quotation, we don't usually put double quotes or quotation marks. So, but we, especially if there are 40 words or longer than that. So we give or we write that in a freestanding block of typewritten lines and omit quotation marks as in this figure on the right side. So you can see again, the red line shows that John's 1998 study found the following. So the remaining ones are actually a block of quotation. So we just leave some space and we don't put that in double quotes. That is what, according to APA for long quotations. I mean, when you look into the recent guides like APA 7, you will see a lot of guidelines are given for each and everything, like when there are single author, multiple author, what needs to be done, and how to write the title, whether uppercase, lowercase letters needs to be followed. So next we will talk about what needs to be done if there are like single author or multiple authors. So APA manual recommends the use of author date citation structure as we talked before for in-text citation references. For example, as Ahmad 2016 mentions, or we can put Ahmad, that's the last name of the author, comma 2016, which is the publication date. Then if there are two authors, we can use AND and, or we can say using ampersand, we can represent that. For example, Wagner and Petty, 1994. And if there are three authors, we use et al. After the first author. So here, Kernish is the last name of the author. Then we put et al. That indicates that there are three or more authors. Sometimes the author might be unknown as well. So in that case, maybe you can use some words like two words from the title itself, as in this example, using citation 2001. So you can use some signal phrases or use the first one or two words from the title of that publication, of that paper. Then you can specify the date as well. Then another example is for traditional knowledge of indigenous people. Suppose that you talk to someone, a senior member from the indigenous community, and you need to include that communication in your research work. I mean, it's a little different, the way we mention those citations. We need to include the person's full name, nation or indigenous group, location, and any other relevant details before the personal communication date part of the citation. So here we have those information. Caroline Jennings, Cherokee Nation, lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma, personal communication, October 2019. So it's actually citing based on a personal communication only. So this is the way for indigenous knowledge. When you talk with people, you can include their name in citation. Next is about the reference list. So whatever you cite in text, you need to include proper references as well. So references should appear at the end of your paper. It is used by readers to locate and retrieve any source you cite in the body of the paper. Each source you cite in the paper must appear in your reference list as well. Your reference should begin on a new page, separate from the text of the essay, and you need to label that as reference in bold, and it should be centered at the top of the page. According to APA, that's the way we need to represent references. We will go through some of the basic rules for listing the references. There should be hanging indentation first of all. Then author's last name should be written first. Author's first and middle name should be written as initials. For example, if the author is Jane Mary Smith, that should be written as Smith, J.M. Last name followed by the first name and middle name abbreviations. For multiple articles by the same author, you need to list the entries in chronological order from earliest to most recent. Then, if you are referring to titles of book, sometimes the material that you are referring can be part of a text written book or some chapters or articles, reports, web pages, or any other sources. Capitalize only the first letter of the first word of the title and subtitle, the first word after a colon or a dash in the title, and you need to use proper nouns as well. So I have included few examples for single author for giving the references, last name followed by author initial. So Ahmad is the last name of the author, then the initial is given, the date, then the name of the publication is written. Then again, if there are two authors, we need to list their last name and initials. For example, Soto, CJ. CJ is the initial, and John, that's the second author, OP 2017, followed by the publication details. Then again, sometimes there can be three authors or more. I mean, for 3 to 20, we follow the same rule. We will be listing the last names and initials, comma separated author names, while the last author name is preceded again by an ampersand sign. So here, yeah, you can see just before 2019, in the first line, the authors are listed, and before the last author, we just put an ampersand sign. That's the way. If we have like more than 3 authors, we can mention the name of those authors in the reference list. And in very rare cases, there can be more than 20 authors as well. So if there are more than 20 authors, we follow the same method, but after 19 authors, we uses an ellipsis. So you can see in third line near to the year 2019, 19 authors name has been written, then there is a comma, then there are like 3 dots you can see over there. That's the ellipsis. Then we mention the last author name. Kim will be the last author. So that's the way we need to mention. If there are more than 20 authors, this is the way reference should look like. So there are a lot of other things also to consider, like how to give the title, what kind of styling you can follow, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and if it is book, if it is from a publication, how to give those kind of references. So I will give you a link here. When you follow that, you will be able to see more rules about APA style 7th edition. Next is about IEEE citation. IEEE stands for Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. Accordingly, they also do have general format specified, in-text citation, reference list, then certain rules for table, figures, as well as equation. So we will see the one for in-text citation as well as reference list. For IEEE in-text citation, we need to put bracket numbers. So near to wherever you are citing, you need to put the number in bracket, like 1, 2, 3 numbers. Then those numbers, corresponding to those numbers, whatever the reference that you need to include in the reference list as well. And if there are multiple references, that should be separated with comma. So you can see an example here, as established in 1. So that at the end of this manuscript, you have to specify what is the reference. Then again, the second example, maybe it's from multiple references. So multiple references, we need to specify within square bracket, like 1, 2. And references are always numbered in order of citation. So this is what we follow with IEEE in-text citation. Then there are reference list. So for reference list, references should be provided on a separate page at the end of your paper with the title references at the top of the page. And they should be listed and numbered in order of citation, not in the alphabetical order according to IEEE. And the number should be flush against the left margin and separated from the body of the reference as well. Authors are always referred to by their surname and initials. For references up to 6 authors, we need to list all the authors. For publications with 7 or more authors, list the first author followed by et al. That's the guidelines according to IEEE format. Again, depending on which journal you are submitting the paper or you are going to publish, there can be differences. So it's very important to look into corresponding journal guidelines and incorporate those rules in the citation. So some examples are listed here from IEEE reference list. If it is from book, we need to include author, title, volume, edition, city, state, country, publisher, as well as the year. So likewise, for different categories like periodicals, website, thesis and dissertations, conferences and presentation, there are like different rules being followed. So these are some examples for that. Another type of citation style, which is commonly used for humanities related discipline, is MLA, Modern Language Association citation. MLA also covers formatting and page layout, and some of the stylistic technicalities also mentioned over there, like how to use abbreviation, footnotes, quotations. Then there are specification about citation as well as references. Then preparation, the entire preparation of the manuscript. So those guidelines are also useful. Mainly, MLA style is reserved for writers and students preparing manuscripts in various humanities disciplines, as I said earlier. For example, English studies, language and literature, foreign languages and literature, literary criticism, comparative literature, cultural studies. In those areas, MLA citation is what we have to follow. So mainly, I'm not going into the detail. Here also you have to identify the core elements from your presentation or from your publication. Then apply the rules for author, title of sources, title of container, other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, location of publication. Those things we have to include here as well. Then sometimes people use Word document, the bibliography function available in Word document itself, or with the word processing applications. Sometimes we can rely on citation generators as well. So when you use citation generators, it's very important to be responsible because those are programs that turn information about a source into a citation that the writer can use in a project. Because if you are not giving the right information, citation generators will not provide the right list of references, right? So it's our responsibility to provide useful information, correct information. Some of the tips for using citation generators wisely are listed here. Make sure the information you input is correct. Make sure you designate the correct medium, version, edition for each and every sources. Make sure to use reputable, accurate sources. Double check the citation you receive against a reference. Make sure you cite each sources in the text in a way that makes sense. So there is a link available from ProDay or OWL University. So you can get more information from that website as well. So always remember to put accurate information in citation generators so that you will be having accurate references as well in your manuscript. Next, moving into some of the tools for managing citations. Mentally is one of the reference manager that we can use for citation management purposes. And they also provide web application as well as a desktop application. You can include an add-in in Microsoft Word document as well, so that as you create the manuscript or your paper or any research work, you can utilize that function in your Microsoft Word. So Mentally is a web application that helps to collect, manage, and cite research sources. It is accessible within your web browser as well as you can have a desktop version. And it is useful for organizing, annotating, highlighting PDF. Then when you upload PDF, automatically from the PDF, it will extract proper sources or citation and reference list. So those are some of the advantages of Mentally. And basically, this is a website for Mentally. So there is the download option. So when you click on download option, it will ask you, which version you want. They do have options for Windows operating system, Mac OS, as well as Linux. Corresponding thing you can download. I will do one thing. I will just put this in the chat box as well, so that if anybody wants to try now. So this is the Mentally Reference Manager. Yep. So once you're done with download, you can install that application in your computer. Let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So first thing, download Mentally Reference Manager. This is actually a product from Elsevier publishers. So you need to have an account over there as well. So it will ask you to create an account. So once you create the account, they will let you to install the application. Then we will be able to add references to that reference manager, and we can include those references in our writing. Then Mentally also provide another option, which is Mentally Web Importer. It's like an extension, so that from the website, suppose you are using the website, through website, if you're reading any manuscript, you can actually import the site, the references to your document directly with the help of Mentally Web Importer. Then the third thing is Mentally Cite plugin for Microsoft Word application. That will be useful in order to include the bibliographies into your work while you write the programs. So I will just share my screen with the application. And we'll quickly go through the steps involved in order to create the reference list. I hope you all are able to see the reference manager page which I shared. So this is the application. So when you open the application, initially this list will be empty. As you add more references, you will be getting like one record for each references. So after installation of Mentally Reference Manager, it's good to install the Mentally site for Microsoft Word as well. So from this tools, you can actually install that one. There is Mentally Web Importer as well as Mentally site for Microsoft Word. So when you click on Mentally site for Microsoft Word, they will take you to Microsoft App Store. From there, you can get that Mentally site. Then it will ask you to, it's like an add-in. When you double click on that, it will ask you to open together with Microsoft Word application. So before moving to that, I will quickly go through the features of this reference manager. So here we have different options like add reference option. When you click on that, you can import files. Suppose that you have got PDF document already collected in your computer. From there, you can add those PDF to that. Then the new one will appear here as a record. Then you can create like collections. If you want to group different publications together, we have the option to group them, so that maybe at the moment, if you're working with a particular topic like cybersecurity with machine learning, so you can create such groups and you can group your references in that particular category. Then again, in order to read this one, you just need to click on the one of the records. Then on the right side, you will be able to see a small pop-up window, and you can read about that particular reference over there. I mean, the PDF over there. So this is the way references can be added to this Mentally Reference Manager, and it's like a cloud storage platform. Now, once you're done with that, I just want to quickly show you the Word application as well. So after installing the reference manager and after installing Mentally Cite for MS Word, when you open a Word application, you just need to click on Reference tab. From Reference tab, you can see at the right corner of this ribbon, there is Mentally Cite plugin included. So that when you click on that, it will list all the references that you created in the website or in the reference manager. So those things will be appearing here. Then you can select particular references and you can include those over here. For example, in my case, I have included machine learning techniques improves the performance of cybersecurity application, and I have given an insight citation over here. So this is the way we will be able to include. So for example, I will add one more reference over here. So for example, if I want to include this comprehensive review on generative AI, from the right side of this window, we can insert that citation. Wherever the cursor over there, that citation will be inserted, as well as corresponding reference will be added to the reference list. So that's the way Mentally works. It's very convenient to use. I hope you got a brief idea about how this Mentally citation manager works. So mainly there are three things: reference manager, web importer, and Mentally Cite plugin. Mentally Cite plugin will help you to write bibliography and in-text citation in Microsoft Word. Another reference tool is EndNote. The official website is given here. When you go to the website, there will be option to download a free version for 30 days and a paid version. Even for the free version, you just need to include your credit card details that will be asked. But here from UFL library, you have an option to get EndNote. So there is a guidelines list of guidelines given. I will do one thing. I will post that as well here in the chat box. These are some of the guidelines. Sorry, I think I copied another one. Okay, so using that, you will be able to see the guidelines using which you can actually download the EndNote application. So I will just summarize the points. You just need to create an account in Web of Science. Then once you register over there, you will be able to download the EndNote plugin as well as the EndNote tool, which you can use for creating citations. It also works very similar to the other one, the Mentally one. Ismail, am I running out of time? I just want to confirm that.
No, you are good.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I will quickly show you the EndNote web application as well. So once you create the account in Web of Science, you will be able to download EndNote. And once you download that one, your page will be looking similar to this. So here we have option for downloading the app for, the plugin for Windows application or Windows operating system. So you can click on that. Then here, this cloud-based storage will help you to collect and organize the references. For example, you just need to click on collect. Then there are new reference or import reference options are there. When you click on that, it will ask you to choose the file. Then different import options are there. Then to where you need to store that one. You can create some groups over there, and to that group you can add those references. So basically, simple way is go to the publisher website like elsewhere, IEEE. In those pages, you will see citation download option. So download those citations and you can import those citations to this particular application. Then once you're done with that, whenever you are about to write your page, the Word document, there a new tab will appear like a plugin EndNote application, and here using the insert citation option you will be able to insert the citation. So here in this particular version, different styles we can choose. I have chosen IEEE style, so that's the reason the citation is inserted in square bracket, and whatever corresponding to that, whatever the reference, that also will be included over here. So try these two. And I'm moving back to my presentation. Some of the strategies for database search, especially for literature reviews, because when you do Google search or internet search, there will be huge amount of information. So it's very important to narrow down your research. So you just need to ask certain questions. What is the goal of this particular research? What are your audience? I will give you another link as well. You can refer that link later. You will get a lot of ideas about how to narrow down your research. Then writing your own research question is important. Knowing what type of sources you need and evaluate those sources. Some sources can be scholarly, and some sources will be popular source. You would like to go with scholarly or you need to rely on popular source. So decide that. Then some sources will be the primary source for your literature. Some will be secondary source. Whichever is better for you, that you need to choose. Then it's important to ask some productive questions. For example, what kind of information are you looking for? Where do you need to look for your research? How much information do you need? How timely does your research need to be? So those questions will help you to narrow down your research the search for your literature. Because internet is a complex and ever evolving place, search engines still only index a fraction of what is available on the internet, not everything. And it's not necessary that it's up to date as well. Search engine does not always search the entire page. So I will give you some other search tools as well. I mean, most commonly we rely on Google search engine. Google Scholar is another option where we can get scholarly documents, the publications from different journals. Then different online library search tools are available. JSTOR, EBSCOhost, Mega Search, those are like online library. They do have like huge collection of databases or publications, textbook. Then different web categories are also available. For example, when you go to Open Directory project.org, there you will see based on different categories, based on different research topics, the papers, the books are grouped together. From there also you can collect information. Then meta search engines are there, like those are useful to search the invisible web where there are like hidden information. Some examples are Dogpile, Mama, Metacrawler, those are few examples. Then finally, using proper search term is very important, like proper keywords, Boolean operators. That way you can connect different keywords together. So that will help the search engine to retrieve the proper information to you. All right, so that's the summary of the presentation. So we talked about the proper the citation importance, overview of some of the common citation styles like APA, MLA, IEEE, then introduction to tools like Mentally, EndNote for managing citation. Another option is flat text. So because of time limitations, I couldn't include that one. Then some of the basic database strategies for literature reviews are also listed. Some of the links I will post here in the chat box so that you can refer to those later to get more information or to download Mentally as well as EndNote application. So that's all about the presentation. Thanks everyone. And these are some of the references I have used here for making this presentation. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Ismail.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this lovely presentation in this case. So I want to thank all people who joined us today. And after this, we shared all material with the practice if you want to practice, and you can be back to me or back to Faisal and similarly if you need any more further questions in this case. So, and I want to thank all of you who are here. And this will be shared and the video recording will be shared. So thank you so much for all the people who should be here. Thank you.